Hi everybody, welcome to my channel, Stories from Portugal. The reason I've chosen to launch this YouTube channel is to tell you my story, tell you my husband's and my story, and how we came to choose to live in Portugal, how we chose to move from USA. What are the challenges that we faced when we arrived? What are the challenges that we faced getting settled? And what do we miss most? What do we wish we had here that we had in the US in abundance? What are the differences between the culture and the governance and the way you get things done? Maybe to help you decide if Portugal is in your future or if you should make any move like this in your own life. My stories really will chronicle my 4+ decade career. And the reason I'm going to share that on this channel is really to illustrate to you how it all led to this moment. It all led to this place. And in many ways, when I reflect on my path, I find that it was foretold. It was foretold in many ways. Coincidences that just can't be coincidences when you add them up, when you look at the stark sort of unrealness of the fact that these things happened, things, places, people happened in my path. So ultimately, perhaps you can find answers for your own life in my journey. Let me back up and just give you a little update on how things are right now. Portugal is, as you know, part of the EU. The EU early on had massive infection rates in Italy and then in Spain and much later in Germany. Portugal, because the infection really approached the borders and the shoreline a little bit later, had the opportunity and seized the opportunity to prepare. Its citizens have embraced mask wearing almost universally. You'll see sometimes people being less than careful. Perhaps outside they take for granted the fact that they don't need to wear a mask, and many people feel that mask wearing should be 100% of the time, whether you're hiking, whether you're walking, whether you're out on a street corner. Some of the localities have taken to banning smoking, which frequently in Europe occurs outside of building entrances because it's universally prohibited indoors. I think there may be a few exceptions, special licenses with special smoke evacuation systems and things like that, but it's almost universally banned, and so therefore people tend to congregate right outside the entrance and therefore subject everybody that's walking in or out of that establishment to their cigarette smoke, which seems counterproductive to the whole banning. Just let people smoke where they want because it'll be more diffused. That's my theory, but it's a very unpopular theory, may I say. So there is the case being made that when you're smoking, you are emitting greater moisture, greater particles through your breath, and therefore it's a danger. It poses more of a danger. Also, you don't have a mask on when you're smoking. So even if you're outdoors, and especially if you're congregating within proximity to the entrance or exit of a building where people are transiting, you're presenting danger, and therefore municipalities on the local level are banning people from smoking. So it's what I say is that the infection is pretty much being controlled by common sense measures. In addition, the medical community, the availability and prevalence of accessible testing, drive-through formats available widely across the country, where humongous bills don't arrive after the fact, where questions about whether you are insured or not apparently are not asked, where universally anyone that wants a test can get a test. I don't find that to necessarily be the case in my first country. I think that I have questions about the validity of the numbers being presented by the current administration. I have questions about the actual penetration ratio of testing to the population. I do not see it as effective in identifying cases and therefore taking steps to mitigate the spread, which is where the tracing and contact tracing comes in my view. So I have to say that here contact tracing does occur. There is a fast turnaround of the testing, the findings of the test, and therefore immediately self-quarantine is put in place. And people in general don't have, pardon my editorial, but silly attitudes about wearing a mask. Wearing a mask, if you really have a question about it, I always ask myself, well, what's common sense here? If you feel like masks don't work, then I suggest the next time you go to the dentist, or the next time you have surgery, or the next time you have a baby, please make sure that no one providing care to you is wearing a mask, because after all, masks don't work. It's easier to wear a mask than it is to wear a ventilator. I don't know. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness extends beyond oneself. It is almost a responsibility when you live in a society to care for those around you. And I find that sense of caring that I always so completely believed in my first country. I always believed that Americans were among, if not the most generous, the most compassionate, the most kind, the most giving people on earth. I don't know what's happening. Well, I actually do. I have opinions about what's happening. I think that the country, unfortunately, is being led by an administration that has politicized everything to an extent that it is perhaps risking the lives of innocent people who come into contact with anti-maskers, whatever that is. Antisocial, I would suggest. In any case, what I'm saying to you is that here in this country, there isn't any of that nonsense. There isn't a refusal to care about your neighbor's well-being. There isn't a refusal to participate in a society-wide effort to prevent the transmission of a deadly illness. So in that sense, it's more calm. In that sense, it's more caring of an environment. You don't go outside every day and worry so much that you're going to run into somebody who is going to attack you because you choose to exercise your freedom in protecting others around you as well as yourself. In fact, on that note, just to say that the new science coming out now actually does say that mask wearing assists not only you in protecting your neighbor, but it assists you in protecting yourself from infection. So lots of mask wearing going on here, and it's great. So because of that, I think Portugal has done better because of the accessibility, affordability of testing, because of the quick turnarounds and reporting on test results and efforts to mitigate those results, those findings, mitigate people with infections being isolated. It's better It's better than what's happening in the USA right now. So in that sense, it makes us believe that, yeah, gosh, we're really lucky that we made this decision. We're really lucky that we don't have all that pressure right now. There's other pressure, but we don't have that pressure. And it seems like pressure for nothing. Pressure for what? Pressure, do people getting healthier, people being more free, people living in a better society because of the choice to make an issue out of something that can help them? I don't think so. So in any case, I'm seeing a lot of interest in people wanting, after all of this passes and travel opens up, and it hasn't opened up for Americans in Portugal as yet, according to my research, that there's a greater interest in thinking about living one's life elsewhere, outside of an environment that is very high pressure all the time, with these new pressures that, again, I'm just going to say what I think, which is it seems unnecessary, and an unnecessary whole layer of additional stress and anxiety and conflict added to a lifestyle that already has so much pressure, stress, demands, that for us, in many ways, I wish that we had made this choice much, much earlier in our lives. So if you're a millennial, if you're a Gen Z or Gen X, and you're thinking about how you want your life to go forward, all I can say is I, in your situation, would hope that I would explore opportunities like Portugal may represent, because it's really a hidden gem. It's a country that has been undersung, and for that reason, it's still a gem. It's not overrun, it's not overpriced, and it's not overfilled with expats or Americans or English speakers, although there are many, and in some parts of the country there are many, many. So why I'm saying all this is because, as I said, the purpose of the channel is to illuminate for you my story, my husband's story, our journey, how we came to be here, what it's like, what was the long and winding pathway that led us here. And so, in my next video, I'll talk about my accidental career, which, as I've said, it spanned more than 4 decades, working in the non-government sector, where I worked with and for organizations and institutions that served national and global missions that work to help humanity in one way or the other: health, community development, child development, alleviating poverty, etc., etc. So environmental, leadership development, etc. So I'll talk about that and the accidental nature, and yet when I back up and say it was foretold to me, it was foretold to me in many ways that I would be here at some point in my life, that this country was part of my destiny. And so that's one part of it. The other side is that it was no accident, but the other side of it was I helped it along. I made choices that made it possible. So thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you'll come back. Talk to you soon.